Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Mandy Grace, author of 10 novels so far. Welcome to a vlog that has nothing to do with rewriting my old books. Although I suppose that kind of depends on how you define old. How I've been defining old is like the Amanda Grace books that I'm rewriting and bringing under Amanda Grace, most of which I wrote either as a teenager or like early 20s. I say as I'm barely in like late 20s. It feels like a long time ago, okay? I am aware that I'm very young. It's not that I necessarily feel old, it's that in writing years it feels ancient. So, you know, like last year, oh, the TV just got real loud. Last year, I wrote 5 books. So, like, 5 books ago is a long time. It's a long time, okay? It's like dog years, okay? Anyway, so yes, my old books are ancient history that I have been rewriting and then republishing under my Mandi Grace brand. It's a long story. Go back to the beginning if you want to know what all that's about. But, today is something else. So I am looking at the first book in my King Arthur fantasy series, which I love so much, which I wrote in 2020, which is why I made a weird joke about what you define as old, because like this book is also 3 years old, so it's been a while, but like it's not as old as the other ones. Anyway, also I wrote it as Mandi Grace, not Amanda Grace, so it's just much more recent. Yes, so I have to send it off to my critique partner today, and I haven't looked at it, so we're gonna do that. So I was not like deeply writing. It felt very like half-hearted, not half-hearted in that I wasn't invested, but half-hearted in that like it was due today and I really didn't take the time to like think through the changes that I was making. But I had a blast, you guys, and now I'm contemplating life. Okay, I moved location so that the TV time Netflix wasn't in the background and potentially either drowning me out and or causing copyright issues. So we're back in the kids' bedroom. But yes, so what was I saying? Contemplating life. Listen, I had so much fun, and I wrote, oh, not that one, this one. Tools, word count. 3,493 words in the hour that I sat down and like played around with what was originally the first chapter of Maziah's story and then like redid it entirely differently. And not very, listen, it was rushed. Not that I was panicked rushing, but in that like I was just like da-da-da-da-da instead of like focused, making intentional changes as I rewrite a story, right? I don't know if you understand the difference because it's kind of abstract in my brain, but there's a vast difference. And I was just like casually writing for funsies this morning, and it's 3,500 words, and it was so much fun, and I love this story so much. And so contemplating life in the sense that I haven't been getting very many words written with Cindy's story, and I was thinking that it was very like burnout, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I haven't had a break, so there's no room for creativity kind of thing. Which sounded valid up until this morning when I wrote almost 4,000 words in an hour, had a blast, and ready to dive back into the story. I don't think it was burnout with life in general. I think it was boredom with this particular story, which breaks my heart because I love Cindy and Cassie's story. I want to finish that story. I want to get it back out for my readers, especially the ones who read it before and are waiting for the rewritten versions. Like, I want to do that. I do. But I just wrote almost 4,000 words in an hour, and like last week writing Cindy's story, there was one day that I wrote 700 words, and I felt really good about it because that's the most I'd written in like the entire summer, right? I mean, it's not that dramatic, but it felt that dramatic. I don't actually know how long it's been since I wrote more than that. But anyway, I wasn't writing more than that last week, and then I wrote 700, and I was like, this is such a good day. And then this morning happened. I'm like, this is me. I don't know what that other thing is. It's not me. So, I'm contemplating setting aside the dystopian trilogy until an unspecified date so that I can focus on the story that clearly actually has my passion and attention. And guys, I have been missing the King Arthur series since I started the rewrites thing. The rewrites thing was good. Like, I was able to re-fall in love with my Robin Hood series, because I'd reached a point with my Robin Hood series where every time it was mentioned or brought up, I was like, ugh, don't look at me. Because I had very, very low opinions of young Mandi's writing skills. It's not that bad. I mean, it's better now because I rewrote it, but it wasn't that bad. Anyway, except it was awful, but it wasn't like that awful. Anyway, we don't have to talk about it. The point is, I re-fell in love with the story, and I got them published, and it was like a dream come true. It's amazing. And the covers are gorgeous, and the whole thing is just epic. And like, I want that for Cindy and Cassie too, but I haven't been feeling it this year. I have not been feeling it. And also, this whole rewriting project in my head was supposed to take a single year, and now it's been a year and 8 months. So the break, I wrote the first 3 books in my King Arthur series. I didn't write the 4th one yet, because I was like, I'll pause, I'll do the rewrites real quick. Real quick. And then I'll come back to it. And it's been almost 2 years now, and I miss it so much, but I keep being like, I'm almost done with the rewrites. We'll just finish the rewrites. I'm almost done with the rewrites. Which, honestly, I was satisfied with that answer until this morning when I read a chapter for my critique partner, and then I was like, why am I not doing this story? Why? So, if any of y'all have been with me through this fantastical journey of the last 2 years or longer, weigh in, please. Because the completist in me is like, I am on book 7 of 8. I should finish the rewrites. It's not that big of a deal. It won't take that long. It'll be fine. But like, the little kid in me who just had so much fun is like, why am I not writing the story that actually brings me joy? Not that Cindy and Cassie don't, because sometimes they do, but not like this. Not recently. Not last week. I don't know, guys. It's very unlike me not to finish a project. But I stopped in the middle of the King Arthur series to do the rewrites. I didn't write book 4. I didn't finish the series. So, like, if I can trust myself to come back to it eventually, I can trust myself to go back to the dystopian trilogy eventually. Right? I'm trying to convince myself that it's, like, not illegal somehow for me to stop rewriting and go back to the story that I actually love. I don't mean that to say I don't love Cindy and Cassie, because I do. I do love their story. I'm just not real passionate about it right this minute, and this one, good lord, it's so good. We did completely change stuff, though, but I wasn't, like, paying attention or, like, making deep choices in rewriting. It's chaos. I don't know which one I like more, because I just sort of, like, blah, this morning. You're welcome, Hannah. Anyway... So basically, in the original chapter, we open with a council scene. The council is gathered, you meet all of the council members, the king, Princess Maziah, her brother Arturius, major players in the political schemes that are about to go down in this story. Okay, we meet everybody, get a feel for them. We meet Merlin, who is called Merlin, but he's not going to be. I renamed all the, like, King Arthur series people. Legend? The Arthurian legend, folks, have been mostly renamed, with the exception of Merlin, who I could not come up with a name that fit. I tried a few things, nothing fit. He ended up being called the Nameless, because I do, when I'm writing, and I have something that, like, I don't have a name for yet, or I don't know what to describe, or, like, literally anything, but I'm like, in the middle of a scene, I'll come back to this. I put brackets, and just say, you know, describe this room later, or something. So with Merlin, he just became brackets the Nameless. Anyway, so yes, Merlin doesn't have a name, and then Lancelot, I just named Lance, which is basically the same name, but I adore him, and I'm not changing his name. He's the best character in the whole series. Anyway, why am I ranting about names? You meet people, okay? And then Merlin comes in and is like, there's a dragon, and then everything, that's like, you know, kicks off the excitement. There's a potential dragon threat. and we're raising the tension of who's going to be the heir, Maziah or her twin brother. Political schemes ensue. And then we meet Lady Raffaella, who is basically the mom figure, because their mom died a long, long time ago. This whole thing. We meet the ladies in waiting. We go hang out in the woods with the ladies in waiting and, like, get to know each of their, personalities and such, which is a real fun, it's fun stuff, but it's a lot of info dumping. It's a whole lot of me telling myself where things are located, because it is chapter 1 of book 1 of a story that I had never written before, obviously, and I don't do a whole lot of plotting because I'm a discovery writer, so I was like, just telling myself everything as I found it out. So that was what I was changing this morning, to be like, we don't need all the info dumping. Yes. And then I didn't start on the council scene, meeting all the council players. I started with the girls in the woods scene. I don't know which is better. I think they're both... Listen, the council scene at least started, like, in the middle of some kind of action. We're in the middle of the council meeting, the Merlin person is like, dragon! It's like a whole thing, right? Whereas the meadow scene, the girls are just hanging out and they ask about the council scene. It's the same conversation that happens in the original version of the book, but the rewritten version of the book for my critique partner, they have the conversation first. Like, we don't see the meeting and then the conversation. We just start with the conversation. I don't know which is better. Maybe I should have sent Hannah both of them and then she could tell me. Then after the scene in the woods, there's a sparring scene with Maziah and her ladies, and then Arturius and his knights, like, all together, the whole group. And I also kept that in with a little minimal adjustments, basically, to the fight scenes. I want to redo them completely because it doesn't actually describe anything. Occasionally, like, I have one gal, Celestina, who's really good. And in this scene, in 2020, I kept writing things like, she knocked him down, she whacked him over the head. But, like, I didn't really describe her fights, or her fighting style, or, like, how she's disarming these people. She keeps disarming. I literally just used the phrase, she disarmed him, like, 12 times. So I want to redo that, but not right now. Mostly I'm just, like, sprucing it up a little to give it to my critique partner. We're not completely going crazy yet. Also because I wasn't sure, I wasn't ready to, like, dive into the series. Oh, it's all going so wrong, but so right, because I'm having so much fun. Anyway, we have that situation, so I kept that in. And then the next thing is Celestina and Arturius later that night talking about the future of the kingdom together. I didn't add that because I was like, I don't know what the point of this is. Anyway, that's as far as we got, was just chapter 1. And I don't even know. It's really hard to, like, explain to you the comparison without just reading both versions of the chapter 2. I kind of want to compare the opening council scene with opening with the non-council scene. But instead of giving you, like, the entire story and boring you to pieces, I am going to read you the section that I redid. Maybe? Like, line by line? Or, like, where there's edits? So, because it's in the middle of the narrative in the original one, it's not the opening of a scene. They were literally doing something and then they walked to the forest and, like, it was the whole thing. We're kind of in the middle, but here we go. We need to be thinking about the decision the king is facing and the ceremony that will follow it. And then they have this entire discussion about whether or not the crown is Maziah's birthright or not, which it was so when I started the story, it was like a birthright thing, but then, like, by the time I got to the end of book 3, it was less of a birthright thing, Ugh. And more of a, like, this kingdom is very young and they don't really know what they're doing, monarchy kind of thing. So, the kingdom is only 86 years old. It was 86 years prior to present day in the story that Maziah's ancestor unified all the clans and, like, brought them together to be a kingdom. And essentially, they had single children for a couple of generations. So they just passed on leadership to the obviously next person. And then Maziah and Arturius are the first, like, sibling situation. And so the kingdom is just kind of like, what do we do? And also, there's not necessarily a clear eldest because they're twins. So, like, yes, one of them came into the world first, but, like, by a few minutes? Does that count? Also, do we care about, like, birth or gender or anything? Like, they don't have a clue. They don't know what they're doing, and so the people are very split between Maziah and Arturius for different reasons. Some of them want to go with Maziah because she's oldest. Some of them want to go with Maziah because she's magical, and the most beloved queen of the kingdom was Grandma Rain. She was magical. It's like a whole thing, which I didn't know about until book 3, but then it was a whole thing. Okay, camera cut off, and I don't know where it cut off. And then we have the conversation about, you know, the upcoming decision, but, like, in light of the fact that I now know that it's not a birthright thing. Anyway, that was way more information than you needed, especially me reading the entire first chapter twice. I'll probably cut a lot of that out. Once I start editing it and realize that it's really only interesting to me. Anyway, basically the point is, I do feel like I enhanced the meadow scene to some degree, but I also don't know that I like starting with the meadow scene more than starting with the council scene. So I might also at some point go back, at some point, if I decide to do this story instead of dystopian one, I might rewrite the opening scene as it stands in the original book and put it in front of the rewritten meadow scene. I don't know. Am I playing with this story now instead of the other one? I don't know. But I think y'all need to tell me. And then... Listen, I'm leaning towards the Arthurian series. Because I just have had so much fun today. And I miss this story. And I was planning on writing book 4 for NaNoWriMo anyway. And it's August, so I can spend August, September, October, like, getting reacquainted with book 1, 2, and 3, you know, and, like, playing around in it. Not doing official edits and rewrites and such like, but, like, just having fun before I write book 4. And then we can do the dystopian trilogy next spring. By which point I might be ready to go back to it. Because clearly I was getting bored. I was so excited by the 713 words I wrote last week. Ugh. Which sounds like a lot of words, I understand. But comparing to myself, it's not. And I was, because I were reading the Burnout book in my writing community, I was like, you know what? I'm tired. I don't have a lot of energy pennies. I have valid reasons to not be, like, super creative. It all makes sense. And I believed it until this morning when this happened. And now I am questioning. Heavily questioning. And that's where we're going to end this impromptu video that wasn't supposed to happen.